Today is finally the day, after many months of things getting out of hand, but also preparing the build, my Civic from hell. Today we will be jumping on top of it, maybe also quite literally, and try to put all of these parts into the car. You've seen the video where we unveiled the engine, so if you missed it, check that out. But aside from that, we have here pretty much everything. I would say we have 90% of parts to make this car work. From the big things, what we're missing is the brake system from AP Racing, the custom steering rack that is going to be made, and also steering column, and a couple of things that we will find out as we are assembling the car, because you never know what you need, and we will see. So a quick overview of what we have here, what we have gathered over weeks and months. We have here a bunch of hard race stuff, we have Skunk 2 exhaust, we have JRZ RS Pro active suspension. It's going to be very handy when we run some extra aero, which is going to be made later on the car as well. Desmond Rega Masters wheels, the tires will be coming later, V-Box. We have parts all the way from Australia, honed, we have high frequency ABS sensors, ATL, fuel cell, DF antincendio, FEV fire suppression system, more hard race wheel bearings, fuel system by Deechworks. We have clutch and flywheel combo. We have uprated drive shafts from Drive Shaft Shop, electrical bits, light blocks, very lightweight battery that weighs pretty much nothing because the overall weight of this car is a very important feature. Electric heater from T7 Design, electric harnesses, tubular subframe from Unit 2 Fab, more stuff, spin trick tank, acuity shifter, pedal box from AP Racing over there, the engine, the gearbox, fully built and rebuilt by RRA Gearmaster in the Netherlands. Big shout out to these guys, because the level of detail that went into rebuild and communication, it's really phenomenal. Inside we have M Factory close ratio gears, shorter final drive, M Factory diff, and basically all the internals are changed as well. Now, a quick teaser, we are right now actually speccing a sequential gearbox from Sadev, but we had to wait for the power band of the engine until we could actually spec the gearbox completely. More honed parts, and here we have Lapo standing with XXL Nutrition Mug. Check out the link in the video description if you want to get some gains or weight loss, one of the two. Anyway.
So we're gonna scan the raw chassis just to have all the bones of the car, to take reference, and for example for trimming parts, for see that if everything is fitting, and also of course to package as tightly as possible everything as close to the center of mass of the vehicle as low as possible. So to do that the best way, instead of cutting and trying and fitting, we just know it's gonna fit. So we're gonna clip off all this stuff, take everything out of the car, and then scan it with a cage, so I can then also, for example, the dashboard, we can trim it already, see where everything fits. And then even if the car is going to already be running, I have the bases, and I can do center tunnel, I can do suspension pickup points after, and all of that stuff.
A couple of other things, as mentioned earlier, we'll be making a fully custom steering rack and column. So for that we also need to scan to see where we're gonna fit, or because it's gonna be custom made. Exhaust in a later stage will be equal length manifold and exhaust system by Celery Tech. So we need to scan how much space they're gonna have. And yeah, I guess let's get started. I'm looking forward to today. We're gonna work the whole day, see how far we're gonna get. Let's go. Lapo is finished with the scanning job, so now we're gonna take off the rest of the parts that were still on it to make the chassis movable, so the whole suspension geometry, you name it. And while we're at it, I actually noticed the nice seam welding or stitch welding job by Stahlus. So all the bits that could flex under tension have been seam welded. So fantastic job. That should add lots of rigidity, which is also needed with all the aero, big tires on a tin foil chassis that was not intended for the power and downforce levels and also mechanical grip levels that we're going to put through it. So preparation is very important. The solid foundation. Actually, this is going away as well because carbon panels, everything will be carbon. Half of it is made, half of it is waiting for, etc., etc. So let's see how far we get. So let's take everything off and go. I had this part for over a year on the shelf, and I think Lapo is gonna hate me for this because he's very Italian, peculiar.
Is
and
this?
Yes. There we go.
I mean, Lapo spec, Misha spec.
Fast forward 24 hours later, these are a bit dark, let me take them off, and the car is quite an assembled stage. We need to work on my Corvette now, but let me show you what we already have. And of course, we already ran into a couple of problems. So the first one, if you can follow me here, is we found out that we are missing an engine mount bracket because we don't have it. We have a very old one from my K20, so it's not completely aligned over here. It's all rusty and dusty, and T7 Design is making those, but they're out of stock. They're going to get here in 4 weeks, so we need to be replacing those. We'll show you the engine and the gearbox assembly later on, but first let me show you the suspension assembly. We installed the GRZ RS Pro Active suspension, so it's going to be active while measuring everything, all the G-forces and loads and rakes, so it can adjust itself with honed and hard race components. Speaking of which, we realized that a few things, for example, the rear trailing arms, we have unfortunately wrong ones. These are for the 92 to 96 Civics, but Type R JDM spec. So when you look at it here compared to the stock component, the stock suspension has a fork design, and here you have a pinion, I guess, what would be the correct word. And yeah, we need to have different arms for here. But then again, this is also the reason why we are just assembling the car as we can, and then we're taking notes what we need, because everything will be replaced. Lots of things, like the components that we're missing, we will be ordering, Components that we cannot get new, such as like rear trailing arms, for example, we'll take off, disassemble completely, powder coat them, and then install the rest of the assembly. So for example, as you can see now still, the wheels are the original 4x100 pattern, because we are missing tires for the actual Regamaster wheels, the 5x100 14x3.3. Other than that, let me show you also underneath, if you can see it. Ross has done a great welding job of reinforcing the real trailing arms with honed components. For example, also here we have still the stock bushing that will be replaced by a more sturdy one. We have a hard race replacement that will be going in. But first we're going to disassemble the whole thing once it's assembled, and as mentioned, powder coat or anodize and get components new, or simply components because we're missing them, like the engine mount mentioned over there. Let's bring the car down and I can show you a few things. By the way, as we were assembling this, and Stahles has made a mounting point for ATL fuel cell on the back, we were already like, you know what? Let's reposition it more closer to the middle for optimal weight distribution. So all of this extra work was already unnecessary, so now we just have a very nice spot for a diffuser. Yeah, beautiful. Actually, before it goes down completely, one more thing, not sure if I mentioned it in the intro, all the steering rack assembly, that's going to be made completely custom. The steering rack and the steering column will be made by Woodward, because I want to have power steering, I want to have a quick steering rack there. Of course, lots of easier solutions. One of the most easiest would have been a DC2 Type R steering rack, which is a shorter ratio, but that's unfortunately right-hand drive. The car is left-hand drive. So then you can go with this solution, and then you have Quaife steering rack quickeners, but then you do not have a power steering. You can go the original DC2 with power steering rack. So, and I'm like, you know what, while we're at it, while the build is already such next level, like having a custom steering rack is just like a very small addition to the total picture. So yeah, let's bring it down so I can show you a couple of more things. And again, probably in a week time, the car will look completely different again. By the way, shout out to Twinbush that helps us to work on all our cars, but also on all your cars. And the Civic is just too light. That's why it's taking so long to go down. So again, the engine is in, the gearbox is in, we have Hasport engine mounts. By the way, massive thank you, Brian, for bringing those last year. I'm happy we could finally year after mount everything, because this build escalated too much. We have hard race strut bar here. We're running into some problems here that we'll need to find a solution for because of the massive ITBs. There are two ways of solving it. We can either flip the engine more forward, I guess, so the ITBs is not running over the bonnet, or we're gonna have a custom bonnet with a bulge. Now, another thing which is very cool, you can see maybe through here, is the Unit 2 Fab tubular subframe, which is a really, really nice piece of kit and engineering that allows us also later to install the custom Woodward steering rack. And now, finally, we'll go into here to show you what is happening here. Tillet extreme lightweight bucket seats. They actually came from Lapos Speedster that has been in pieces for like almost 2 years now. So I think it fits the car very nicely in terms of its lightweight character with VULCAN ALPHA stitching, braiding. And then something that we need to still finalize the actual position of those components. We have the AP Racing pedal box. The thing is, we are missing the master brake cylinder because that will be made based on the total weight of the car and the full specifications. So once we finish the car, we need to give the specifications to AP Racing, and they're gonna make us master brake cylinder. And one thing that I'm going to actually take out, look at this, the acuity shifter. This is for me one of the most favorite parts about the car, because shifter, that connects you to the driver engagement. If you want to upgrade your car and driver feeling, suspension, yes, sure, but the proper shifter, the way you shift and the noise, this is like one of the most coolest parts. So I've actually spec'd a sequential gearbox that will arrive probably in about 2 months' time because it is currently being built, because I had to wait for the engine specifications, the RPM, the power band, etc. But I said I really want to still drive with the H-pattern gearbox and enjoy the proper experience. And if you made it this far, I want to give you a little teaser. As you see, I look a bit different, tanned, maybe with some extra kilos, but that's not what important. Important is that Civic doesn't look any different, all because of you, because this company is blooming and so successful, and we spent much more time working on project cars and your cars, and our cars come last. And also the other thing is that I have also other cars that come first, such as the Corvette, because it's actually running. What I want to get at is this massive box arrived a few days ago, and inside are actually almost all the carbon parts for the Civic. Literally every single panel, with the exception of trunk and rear bumper. That's something to follow later, but we're going to start assembling that. In addition, we have here Fanatec stuff that we're going to be testing in upcoming videos. We have here big radiator for the Corvette. We have here stuff also for not even my own cars. Anyway, lots of information and maybe some delays, but for a very good reason, because we really want to bring this to the absolute next level. So stay tuned for the next episode on this. Subscribe, like and share. Everyday lap video and project cars and everything, but not everyday video about the Civic, maybe. But still, subscribe, because you do not want to miss the time that it actually is going to drop. All right, I'm going to go get some lunch. Bye.